Some relationships feel like secret gardens, exclusive, intense, and filled with a language only the participants understand. There's a sense of magic in the privacy, a thrill in the idea that you and your partner share something no one else can touch. It's intoxicating, this feeling of being set apart from the world, as if you've discovered a hidden realm where only the two of you exist. We're drawn to their mystery, to the feeling of being chosen for something special. It's as if we've been invited into an exclusive club, and the sense of belonging is both comforting and exhilarating. But sometimes the walls of this garden aren't for protection, they're for confinement. What once felt like a haven can slowly become a prison, the boundaries growing higher and more impenetrable with each passing day. We often mistake intensity for intimacy and complexity for depth. The emotional highs and lows can feel like proof of passion, but they may actually be signs of something more troubling. The most dangerous traps are the ones we do not see. They're woven quietly, almost lovingly, until we're entangled before we even realize it. These cages are built from invisible threads of guilt, obligation, and a carefully cultivated sense of specialness. Each thread is spun from moments that once felt meaningful, now binding us in ways we never expected. The person who holds the key presents themselves as a protector, not a jailer. They offer comfort and reassurance, making it hard to see the bars they've quietly constructed. We trade our autonomy for a sense of belonging, our freedom for a feeling of being cherished. The exchange feels worth it, until we notice what we've lost. It's a slow erosion of the self, disguised as profound connection. Over time, our own needs and desires begin to fade, replaced by the demands of the relationship. Toxic dynamics often masquerade as the deepest form of love. The more we give, the more we're asked to surrender, until we barely recognize ourselves. They thrive on secrecy and exclusivity, making us feel essential to the system. The secrecy becomes a glue, binding us tighter even as it isolates us from others. This feeling of importance is the bait that keeps us invested, even when our intuition warns us. We silence our doubts, clinging to the hope that love will justify the cost. Authentic love does not seek to bind, it seeks to liberate. It encourages us to become more ourselves, not less. It fosters growth, not dependence. In true partnership, both people are free to flourish, supported but never stifled. A healthy connection encourages individuality and celebrates strength. It's a space where both can shine, together and apart. The journey to understanding this difference is often painful. It asks us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and those we love. It requires us to question the very nature of the love we thought we had found. Only then can we begin to see the invisible cages for what they are. Sometimes, what felt like a sanctuary is just a beautifully decorated cage, and the first step to freedom is daring to see the difference. Chiara met Marco at a dinner party, the kind of gathering where laughter sparkled like crystal and secrets lingered in the air. She was immediately drawn to his presence. Marco was magnetic, his charm effortless, making her feel truly seen in a room full of strangers. He listened with an intensity that made her feel like the only person in the world. He spoke often of his close friend Laura, a fragile soul, he said, someone he felt compelled to protect. His stories painted Laura as delicate, almost ethereal, and himself as her steadfast guardian. Chiara admired his loyalty and was drawn to the depth he seemed to possess. She found herself wanting to know more, to be part of his inner circle. Their courtship was intense and intoxicating. Marco made her feel chosen, as if she alone had unlocked a secret part of him. He'd say, "Laura and I have a special connection, but with you, it's different. You have a strength she doesn't." His words were both a compliment and a subtle comparison. This comparison made Chiara feel special, not suspicious. She felt unique, as if she was the missing piece in Marco's complicated life. Gradually, Marco brought her into his world with Laura, introducing them as if weaving together the threads of a new tapestry. The three of them spent time together. The dynamic felt sophisticated and intimate, like a private club with its own rules and rituals. Chiara felt welcomed into this exclusive circle, flattered by her new role in Marco's life. But soon, subtle trouble began. Marco confided in Chiara about Laura's anxieties, painting Chiara as his rock, the one he could truly rely on. In front of Laura, he was the doting protector, always attentive, always caring. Chiara became a secret keeper, positioned as Marco's true ally, privy to confidences Laura never heard. Her world began to shrink, revolving almost entirely around Marco and Laura. The outside faded away. Friends felt distant. Her new reality was hard to explain, and harder still to share. She was living inside a story only two others could read, her thoughts and feelings increasingly private. Isolated, yet Marco framed this as proof of their profound connection, insisting that what they had was rare and precious. "It's just us against the world," he'd say, and for a while that felt like enough, even as the walls quietly closed in. Marco was the architect, charming, articulate, and always in control. He had a magnetic presence that drew people in, making them feel special just by being in his orbit. To outsiders, he was perfect, caring, loyal, and always ready to lend a hand. His generosity seemed boundless, and his reputation was spotless. With Chiara, he was the passionate lover, attentive and romantic. With Laura, the patient caregiver, always there in her moments of need. He controlled communication, ensuring he was always the center of every interaction. Every message, every conversation, revolved around him. Laura played her role well, fragile, anxious, and deeply dependent on Marco's attention. Her vulnerability was always on display. Her weakness was her power, eliciting sympathy from everyone around her and creating a sense of obligation that was hard to ignore. Chiara wanted to help, but Laura's victimhood kept her central in Marco's life, making it impossible for Chiara to break the cycle. The dynamic was a performance. Marco managed Laura's crises with practiced ease, then turned to Chiara for validation and support. "See what I deal with? Thank God I have you," he'd whisper, making Chiara feel like his secret confidant. This secret bond made Chiara feel important, chosen, and uniquely needed, but it was an illusion, carefully crafted by Marco. Marco cultivated Laura's dependence, while Chiara was cast as the strong one, the reliable anchor in the storm. Praise was conditional. Her strength was only valued if it served Marco's needs and kept the triangle intact. She was celebrated for her insight, but never enough to see the game for what it truly was, or to challenge Marco's control. Her role was to stabilize the triangle, allowing Marco and Laura's dysfunction to continue unchecked, always in the background. She was encouraged to be strong, but never strong enough to leave, always just enough to keep the balance. The balance depended on her complicity, and as long as she played her part, the triangle would never break. At first, Chiara trusted Marco and believed in their unique bond. He nurtured this trust with constant affirmations and secrets. She felt like an insider, part of something bigger. But soon, trust turned to confusion. The rules kept shifting. One day praised, the next subtly criticized for wanting her own life. Marco's attention swung between her and Laura, leaving Chiara off balance. She walked on eggshells, striving to restore harmony. Guilt crept in. Marco reframed her needs as selfishness. "I thought you were stronger than this," he'd say. Chiara questioned her feelings, feeling guilty for wanting more. Guilt silenced her, forcing her to accept pain. Dependence followed. Her self-worth hinged on Marco's approval. Good days meant praise. Bad days brought anxiety. She invested so much that leaving felt like failure. She was no longer independent, but a component in Marco's machine. She forgot how to function on her own. Chiara's turmoil centered on one question. Is this love? There was passion, vulnerability, and connection. Marco could be attentive and supportive, speaking of a future together. These moments glued the toxic structure, making her doubt her unease. But a game has rules, players, and a goal. Here the goal was Marco's control. The rules changed to serve him. Love is collaboration. A game has winners and losers. Chiara realized she could never win. Her closeness with Marco always threatened Laura, and vice versa. The system thrived on conflict, with Marco as referee. Manipulation, not love, was at play. Marco managed emotions to keep Chiara in place, using praise and guilt. He isolated her, creating confusion. This isn't love, it's strategy. Love doesn't require constant sacrifice or secrecy. Recognizing the dynamic as a game was the hardest step. She had to admit the profound connection was a carefully orchestrated illusion. Chiara was trapped in what psychology calls the perverse triangle. It's not just a love triangle, but a system of emotional manipulation. The goal isn't secrecy or choosing, but keeping the triangle intact for the manipulator's control. The manipulator, Marco, directs the dynamic, pitting the others against each other. The apparent victim, Laura, appears helpless, justifying Marco's intervention and creating obligation. She's not passive. Her victimhood secures her place. The included third party, Chiara, is chosen for strength and empathy, used as confidant and emotional dumping ground. She's made to feel essential, but is ultimately expendable. Her role is to stabilize the triangle, allowing the dysfunction to continue. The system is closed, and breaking free is incredibly difficult. Each role serves the manipulator's need for power. Many know Cartman's drama triangle: victim, persecutor, rescuer, where roles shift unconsciously. It's chaotic, with no one in control. The perverse triangle is different. It's a strategy of control, with fixed roles. Marco is always the manipulator, Laura the apparent victim, Chiara the included third party. The manipulator keeps everyone in place using sophisticated tactics. Communication is deliberately obscured: secrets, innuendo, triangulation. Marco speaks to each woman about the other, never fostering honest dialogue. This manipulation creates confusion and dependence. The drama triangle is a pattern people fall into. The perverse triangle is actively maintained. The conflict is the source of the manipulator's power. Escaping means recognizing and disarming a skilled strategist. Chiara's turning point was gradual, a dawning awareness born of exhaustion. She noticed Marco's crises with Laura always coincided with her own important moments. The cage felt suffocating. She began listening to her body: tension, anxiety, dread. Writing down her feelings made the truth undeniable. It wasn't a love story, it was suffering. She reached out to an old friend, expecting judgment but finding clarity. Her friend asked, "What do you get out of this?" Chiara realized she was trading her peace and identity for validation. With new clarity, she set small boundaries. When Marco called to vent, she refused to play her old role. The backlash was immediate: accusations, guilt-tripping. But Chiara saw through it. The puppet strings were visible. The key to her cage was her own perception. By refusing to play her part, she began to dismantle the game. Her freedom started with a single no. She was no longer a piece in Marco's puzzle. The first step to escaping a perverse triangle is recognizing the dynamic. You can't leave a prison you don't know you're in. Be radically honest. Notice the patterns, the confusion, the secrets. Learn about the perverse triangle. Knowledge exposes manipulation. It's not your weakness. It's a system designed to trap you. Break the cycle of secrecy by seeking outside support. The manipulator's power thrives in isolation. Reconnect with friends, family, or a therapist. Share your story, reclaim your narrative. Outside support anchors you in reality. Next, set firm boundaries. Limit time with the manipulator, refuse to be triangulated. Stop being the emotional caretaker. Expect resistance, charm, guilt, anger. Hold firm. Every boundary is a step toward autonomy. Remember, you're not responsible for their emotions or their dysfunctional relationship. In most cases, true escape means leaving the system completely. A clean break is necessary. Continued contact invites manipulation. It's hard, but it's liberating. Breaking free allows you to heal and build real, respectful relationships. Chiara's story is a cautionary tale. Intensity is not intimacy, and control is not care. The allure of a special dynamic can cost your emotional freedom. Question relationships that thrive on secrecy, confusion, or constant eggshell walking. These are red flags, not signs of deep connection. Authentic love is built on trust, transparency, and mutual respect. It doesn't need a third person or thrive on drama. A loving partner celebrates your strength and autonomy. Communication is direct and honest, not manipulative. Love should make your world bigger, not smaller. The journey out of a toxic dynamic is a journey back to yourself. Set boundaries, honor your feelings, and protect your peace. You are not responsible for fixing others' dysfunction. The greatest love stories provide freedom, not drama. Authentic love lets you fly.